It's all happening at the Politicrat Daily Podcast online store, and you can go there right now at the-politicrat.myshopify.com. Lots of good new items, brand new, designed by yours truly. So please head to the Politicrat Daily Podcast online store now. Thank you very much. Welcome to the Politicrat. I'm Omar Moore. It is Sunday, March the 14th, 2021. On this edition of the Politicrat, 1 year ago today, the beginning of this very podcast you are listening to. It was Saturday, March the 14th, 2020, that started the brand new podcast, the Politicrat Daily Podcast. The 1 year anniversary is today. I'll play you a clip or two from exactly 1 year ago today a little later on. But before that, a conversation with Tim Gordon, the president of the Washington, D.C. area Film Critics Circle Association. We will be talking about film, about Tim's organization, the Black Reel Awards, and we'll be talking about the Academy Award nominations and what we expect will be on the list, at least some of the nominees, as the Oscar nominations are announced tomorrow. All of that coming up next. Now there's a new way to get in touch with the Politicrat Daily Podcast by email at politicratpod@gmail.com. That's Politicrat, P-O-D, @gmail.com. I should make you aware that toward the end of this conversation that I had with Tim Gordon, there is a little audio difficulty. You may have some trouble hearing yours truly toward the end. We had some issues with the audio on my end, so Tim can be heard loud and clear. Unfortunately, I cannot be, but I hope that you are still able to enjoy this conversation. This is so good, man. Okay, so before I start, as you know, the first half of this is going to be talking about Black Reel and talking about Black award shows and things. And then, of course, the second half is assessing the Oscars and what you think might happen for Monday, or what you just your general thoughts. So,
right.
All right, I'm going to introduce you now, Tim.
All righty.
With me now is my guest today on the Politicrat Daily Podcast. It's really a true honor and a great pleasure to have him on. He is the president of the Washington, D.C. area Film Critics Association. He also hosts a weekly show. It's a weekend show, a podcast called Keeping It Real with Film Gordon. And he also has a wonderful, wonderful organization called the Black Reel Film Awards. We're going to get to talk about those Black Reel Film Awards with none other than the one, the only, Mr. Tim Gordon. Sir, welcome to this edition of the Politicrat.
Thank you, sir. It's an honor, man. I've been watching and reading all about all of the stuff you're doing, so I get to be a part of it. Yes!
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Brother, it's so good to have you on. Let's get to talk about some of this film stuff. Of course, a lot's been going on. We've had a hellacious last year. We're still going through all of this. It has affected everything, including film. But I do want to start with your organization, the Black Reel Film Awards. Can you talk a little about the organization and also about the nominations that have come out in an organization that I have previously voted the awards for and nominees for. So can you talk about that today, Tim?
Oh, easy, man. Thank you, man, for having me on. I'm honored as well. The Black Reel Awards was something that I created that we initially started back in 2000. It was based on an idea, and I know I shared this with you previously, that it was started because I was always a big fan of award shows, and I thought for years as a young person and as growing up and evolving, I would always see these shows, and we didn't have any representation, and I would go out and watch these movies and always wonder, why aren't Black films or Black performances or films from the African diaspora, why are none of those films being honored? And at some point, I think I started as a critic in the early 90s. And I remember that I had a newsletter at the time, which shows you how old I am. And we did something called the Oscar Michaud Awards, where we talked about we just spotlighted the big six, as I call it, best actor, actress, supporting actor, actress, director, and film. And the idea kind of stayed with me. And around 1999, I think, several years after we had the infamous Hollywood blackout of 96, I said to myself, somebody needs to start an organization that kind of does something that mirrors what the majors, the Academy Awards, the Golden Globes, somebody needs to create something, because I know the Image Awards has been around now in their 52nd year, but the Image Awards only honors probably about 8 to 9 different categories of film, and they're not really covering the full swath of movies. So I sat down and talked to a couple of people, and in 2000, as I said, we launched the Black Reel Awards, and now in our 21st year, we have had a front row seat, Omar, of watching the evolution of Black film, and especially over the last 10 years. It has just grown exponentially. And it's funny because I was doing some press earlier this week about this, and I was explaining like the first 5 to 7 years, Omar, was tough. We didn't really have a lot of films that, like today, people are accustomed to a lot of Black creatives and a lot of Black filmmakers who are telling our stories from our perspective. But when we first started doing this, that was not the case. So you had films like Ray from Taylor Hackford, or you would have other films that would be stories about us that weren't produced or directed by us or created by us. And since 2014, man, we've seen, our presence and the emergence of so many young filmmakers that we've really tracked from the beginning, whether it's Barry Jenkins, whether it's Ava DuVernay, whether it's Gina Prince Bythewood, whether it's Steve McQueen. I mean, Ryan Coogler. I mean, just so many different voices. So, as I like to say, I am just humbled that I get to play a part in having a vehicle that acknowledges not just mainstream films, but we also honor independent films. We honor international with a couple of categories. And it always makes me feel good when we announce our nominations, and we get a lot of love on social media now from people who have been in the business, who rarely are acknowledged, or their performances aren't acknowledged, or their categories haven't really been grand to them. So I'm just happy, man. And so that's the why we did it, Omar. This year, of course, the big film that received 15 nominations was One Night in Miami, followed closely by Judas and the Black Messiah with 12 nominations, and then Ma Rainey's Black Bottom, Netflix's baby, with 10. So so those were the big three this year that got double-digit nominees. One Night in Miami, of course, I don't have to tell you, you've watched it.
I have.
I'm so proud of Regina King, man. I mean, this is a woman who I remember watching as little Brenda Jenkins on 227.
Oh, yes.
And, every time I interview her, I tell her how proud I am of her. There's certain people, Omar, and you, I guess that you could say the same, that you were there for certain people, whether they were actors, whether they were directors or screenwriters, when they first emerged, and then to watch their careers kind of evolve and they become these big things.
Yes.
But you remember I remember talking to Idris Elba when Idris first came out, or I remember little Regina King. And so, yeah, man, we all play our part, man. And as I said, thank you for allowing me to come on and even talk about this.
Oh, you're most welcome, Tim. And thank you for having me on your show as well on many occasions. It's been a real great joy to talk film with you and have some fun. And the Black Reel Awards, the Black Reel Film Awards, very, very important to those watching and listening. You have to know that Tim has done a Herculean job with getting this off the ground, all the blood, sweat, and tireless efforts that he has put in to making this awards that he has be what it is today. I'm telling you. So please check it out. And Tim, by the way, we'll talk a little bit more in a moment about your awards, but can you give right now the webpage or the online stuff for it for people who need to know or want to know?
Absolutely. The site is blackreelawards.com, and on social media, it's easy. It's at Black Reel Awards at Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. So, and also we have a YouTube channel that we just started. So I probably want to invite you, Omar, on to that because we're going to be doing shows spotlighting individual categories and performances as a lead up to the April 11th award announcement of this year.
Oh, I'd be honored. I absolutely accept immediately here. Thank you, Tim, for the invite. Really do appreciate that. And this is
I ain't got
another
nothing but love for you, Omar.
And this is the thing, and likewise to you, Tim, as well. I feel the very same way. And for those listening, again, Tim is a very generous person, and he really does go and work and include people and have conversations and have different guests and perspectives. I know that from watching his show. He's a really good film critic. He's been at the head of the WAFCA, W-A-F-C-A, as I introduced him earlier. He's been El Presidente there for a number of years now, and he's doing great work there. So please follow this brother. Tim, I want to talk a bit more about the Black Reels for just a moment. Right. You've talked about the three biggest award nominees, the three films, Ma Rainey's Black Bottom, The One Night in Miami, and Judas and the Black Messiah. All must-watch films for anybody who has not seen those. They're on Netflix or Amazon or on HBO Max or whichever streaming platform. Please seek all three of those out. But there are other movies too, and these are the ones I actually wanted you to opine on a little bit that may be on your Black Reel Film Award nominations or may not have as many nominations or may not be nominated at all. Please talk for a couple of minutes about Malcolm and Marie and the performance of Zendaya.
Man, let me tell you this. It was interesting. One of the big things and bonuses that we got this year with the pandemic, as you know, Omar, is that typically our film year runs from 1 January to 31 December. And then we're wrapping up and, we're probably at this point, we probably would have had the Oscars or been close to the Oscars. But this year with the pandemic, we got a bonus 60 days or an extra 2 months. And in February alone, as you said, Judas and the Black Messiah, of course, the U.S. versus Billie Holiday, and the other surprise film, of course, was Malcolm and Marie. And I remember I sat and watched it with my lady. And when we had a preview screening of it. And I remember it got the dialogue was so uncomfortable and raw and uncompromised. And I was looking at her like, I'm not really comfortable with what I'm watching here. But I think the acting is superb and fantastic. And Zendaya, to go back to your original point, the only reason I think that she is not getting more love this award season is because, and it has nothing to do with her. She is superb in this film, right?
Oh, yes.
But Andra Day is just transformative as Billie Holiday.
And you jumped the gun. Yeah, I was about to mention her. Yeah.
I mean, you look at, it's funny. I know we're going to talk about the Black Reel Awards in a second again.
Yes.
But this category and our awards this year, to me, was the most competitive category in the 21-year history. I can never remember another year where we had one single category where you can make an argument for all 5 of the actresses that got nominated this year. And I would have been happy because I don't vote. So anything you guys would have picked, I would have been happy with. Right. But I think Zendaya really took a monumental step. Now, I know she just won an Emmy last year for Euphoria. And I've watched her in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, playing opposite Tom Holland in these films. Right. But man, to see this woman stand toe-to-toe with John David Washington and not just deliver the dialogue, but there are points where you feel tremendous empathy for her. That scene in the bathtub alone, Omar, was just one of the most difficult things I watched last year in film. Yeah. I love the other scene where she brings the knife out and scares the Jesus out of John. Yeah. And she scares us too, because we don't know
what's going on. Yeah. And I know. And for those who haven't seen it yet, we've not really given anything away here because we cannot reproduce how great she was in that scene. So we're not giving anything away. We're just talking about how great Zendaya really is in Malcolm and Marie. You have to see it. So go ahead, Tim.
Yeah, I'm just saying. So I guess my original point was the reason why we're not talking more about Zendaya is because there were other performances. Carey Mulligan is just spellbindingly good in Promising Young Woman. Frances McDormand is Frances McDormand. I mean, you've seen her in Fargo. I mean, these are master actresses. Viola Davis. I mean, that's the only reason why I think you're not talking about Zendaya. But what I like about her career and her ascension is that, I know the conventional thinking in Hollywood is always, especially during award season, when you see somebody burst onto the scene, they're young, they'll have another opportunity. In Zendaya's case, I really do think she will have more opportunities because there are other screenwriters and directors and producers that watched her performance in Malcolm and Marie, and people are like, we need to work with her. She's on the come up. So I thought she was fantastic, and as I said, I think she's better than the film. I thought the film has its detractors. There are people that either love it or they hate it. I happen to be in the camp where I found it to be immensely interesting. And you take all of the politics about the screenwriters white and the characters are black. You can miss me with all that. But I liked the film, not enough to watch it over and over, but I did like it enough to say that I saw it a couple of times. Zendaya is fantastic. I agree with you, Omar.
Yeah, I'm glad that we had the time here to talk about that performance because I think it needs to be talked about more. And I'm glad that we have the opportunity to do that here and that you have given your thoughts about it. The other thing I wanted to ask you about is about Andra Day, and because people have to see the U.S. versus Billie Holiday. That is available on Hulu right now. For those of you listening, please watch that film. I think it's a wonderful film. And again, I don't want to give anything away about it. But can you talk about Andra Day's performance as Lady Day, Billie Holiday?
Well, you said earlier that the podcast is called Keeping It Real. So, I'm always a truth teller, sometimes to my own detriment. I am not the biggest fan of Lee Daniels as a filmmaker, right? I think that, I've had issues with his films and the types of films that he makes. So I went into this film, as well as Judas and the Messiah, with a little skepticism. Watching the trailer, I was like, okay, let me see what we have here. And what I saw was a film that may have its flaws, right? There's a lot in this film that's based on real events, right? Or real people that they portray in the film. Mm-hmm. But the one thing that's undeniable, and the last time I think I felt this strongly of watching this kind of a performance is when I saw Jamie Foxx 15 years ago in Ray, where I was so convinced, like, man, it's going to be hard to beat this performance. That performance was that good. Andra Day, you ever hear the saying in sports, or like, I know you love football, that, you leave it all on the pitch, right?
Yes.
Man, Andra Day literally left it all. She immerses herself into the role of Billie Holiday. and there's some uncomfortable moments. It's very gritty. There's some scenes, that are of sexual nature that are very graphic. Andra Day just jumped in it, performed it, and made us feel Billie Holiday's pain, made us feel the agony that she was going through as a woman living in that time, trying to assert her independence. I thought Andra Day is fantastic. And the fact that she won, was it the CCA on Sunday?
Yes, it was. Yeah.
She won the CCA. And I think that win has suddenly muddled the Oscar race. And the fact that the Oscar voting, I think, began like probably later the week that she won, I think it opens up a lot of eyes of people. And, if you'd asked me this question a couple of months ago, I would have told you, hey, man, I think Frances McDormand is a slam dunk to win this award. Right now, I don't know. Carey Mulligan, as I said earlier, is just fantastic. And I promise a young woman, Andra Day is fantastic. I mean, so this is a tough call this year. And it's not as easy as some years where the politics are, well, you should just give it to McDormand. McDormand has won 2 Oscars, and you and I both know that if you win more than 2 Oscars, or the club of people who won 3, there are only 5 people, Omar, in 92 years that have won 3 Oscars, and Katharine Hepburn is the 6th person who's won 4. Right. So it's a very small Mount Rushmore-esque kind of a club that McDormand is trying to get into. Viola Davis, of course, is another one, which I know I'm jumping ahead of you, man. Viola Davis.
That's okay.
Is never won for Best Actress, and there's only been one Black woman that's ever won it. Of course, it was Halle Berry back in 2001 or 2002. Excuse me.
2002,
The performance was 01, but the awards were 02. So there's a lot of intrigue, and I think that Andra Day has a shot of upsetting the apple cart and having people go, where did she come from? This is her debut film? Where did she come?
Right.
I don't know, Omar. She got a shot.
Phenomenal. And as you can tell, for those listening and watching, we've eased into the Oscar conversation. It was really seamless that we've done that. But it's true. There's so many. We're excited, and Tim's excited about this, as am I. We are excited about the prospect of the kinds of women, in particular, the kinds of actors who are being, and I like to use the gender neutral, but that's fine. That's okay. I mean, it's the kinds of performances that we're seeing from Black performers, Black women who are performing. It's just really a great thing. And these performances have always been here. It's that they hadn't been given the opportunities. Filmmakers hadn't been given the platforms, and they've had to make their own platforms and bust down the doors to get attention, to make these kinds of films widely available. They've always been here, but now a huge audience gets to see an Andra Day, a Zendaya, Viola Davis, of course. And, the Oscar race is going to be a really exciting one on as far as actors who are female are concerned versus actors who are male. I think the excitement really for me, Tim, is in the category for actors who are female. I think McDormand in any other year would have won. But she won for a film a few years back that I didn't think was that good. And I didn't think her performance was that great. I thought her performance in this particular film, and we're talking now about the film Nomadland, directed by Claire Zhao, I thought that she was terrific in that. Again, I'm not going to give anything away for those who haven't watched Nomadland, but please do if you get the opportunity. I thought she was terrific in it, Tim. Zendaya obviously was very good in Malcolm and Marie. I didn't like the film very much for lots of reasons, which I won't get into here. And then let me just talk about these other nominees. Viola Davis, my feeling about her, Tim, and share with me your thoughts on this. Viola Davis is exceptional in Ma Rainey's Black Bottom, which is available on Netflix right now. But my issue is that's not really a lead performance. I feel that's more of a supporting performance. versus Chadwick Boseman's remarkable work as the lead, if you will.
Right.
And again, we're not going to give anything away to people listening. Don't worry, we're not doing that. We're just talking about these performances. And Tim, what do you think about Viola Davis? A lead performer or a supporting performer for you?
I think it's definitely a supporting performance. I liken it to if you've watched Dreamgirls, right? So in Dreamgirls, no matter who you cast in as Thunder Early and the Jamie Foxx character, the Beyonce character, the movie literally is all about the Effie character. Whoever plays Effie is going to get all the attention. And in Ma Rainey's Black Bottom, Ma Rainey, despite the fact that the film bears her name, the film is really the story of Levy. And Chadwick Boseman, I'm trying to figure out exactly, after his untimely death last August, to think through this on how we perceive this performance if he was still alive, right? I still think it's the best performance he's ever given in any film. But I think what makes it even stronger in retrospect is understanding that he was in so much pain. He was doing this, carrying around a major secret. We saw the weight loss. We didn't really understand at the time what we were looking at. And he not only does this film, but he has a strong performance in The Five Bloods. It is such a loss, but you're right. I think, getting back to Viola Davis, I think personally, if I had an Oscar vote this year, Viola Davis probably would be the third person I would vote for, probably after Andra Day, and probably.
Oh, I'm not able to hear you at the moment, Tim, unfortunately. For some reason, we have a frozen.
Are you there, Tim?
I am.
Oh, good. Tim, it's good to have you back. I don't know what happened there, but we got cut off. You got cut off in mid-sentence.
I'm sorry, man. My apologies. I was saying I can repeat what I just said. I said that.
Yeah, sure. Please do.
We're recording, right?
Yes.
Okay. I was saying that it's not any. I mean, I respect Viola Davis and her filmography. I think she's a fantastic actor. I think, as I said earlier, it's just this performance is just a byproduct that she is overshadowed by Chadwick Boseman in this role. And Viola Davis, to me, is somebody who we know she'll be back. She's solid in almost everything she does. She's gotten the attention of the Academy. She's almost like Regina King right now. Regina King is so good that whatever Regina King does, people are like, oh, yeah, she needs some recognition for that. Viola Davis is the same way, so she will be back. She just won the Oscar 2 years ago for Fences. Viola Davis isn't going anywhere. I just don't think that this is her year, as we're talking about this really competitive acting field. I personally, I would be shocked if she won this year. But as you said earlier about Frances McDormand for 3 Billboards, sometimes you can win not giving your best performance.
Yes.
so who knows? The Oscar voters are a very finicky, strange bunch, as they've shown us over the years.
Yes, they have. And one thing that we should mention also, and I'm sure some of those listening and watching are aware of this, Tim, there have been tremendous efforts inside the Academy to diversify the votership, the membership of the Academy. And a lot of those efforts were started by Cheryl Boone Isaacs, the former Academy president. For those who don't know, Ava DuVernay is amongst the people involved as well. I believe she's one of the governors or one of the members of the board of governors. And there are others who are doing a lot of work behind the scenes inside the Academy to increase the Black and Brown and Native membership, to inclusify more people who are Black and Brown and Native and Asian in the voting process. We saw last year, as you know, Tim, and many of the listeners and viewers may be aware of, what happened with Parasite, a well-deserving, in my view, film that ended up doing great things on Academy Award night last year. And I am not going to be surprised that when Monday comes, there will be a more diverse slate of nominees. Would you agree with that assessment, Tim?
I would. I mean, also, you're talking about Parasite from last year. I think the little sleeper this year is probably Minari, a film that I saw back in, I think, last October. Wonderful film that I think also will keep up with that theme. It's always kind of an underdog film. The other film and the other thing to really be cognizant of on Monday morning is secretly rooting for Judas and the Black Messiah to get a Best Picture nomination. And people at home are going, well, why is that special? Well, never before, and now we're in the 93rd year of Oscar history, never before in the history of the Academy has any Best Picture nominee had 3 Black producers. So Shaka King, Charles King, and Ryan Coogler, who produced this film. I think we talk about these first in the Academy's history. Omar, I think that would be monumental if that happened. I really do. So that's monumental. And we're also trying to see in the Best Director race, there are 5 slots. Will this be the year that the Oscars nominate 3 women for Best Director? So we know Chloe, you said Chloe Zhao is almost a lock to get nominated.
Absolutely.
Emerald Fennell for Promising Young Woman is getting a lot of buzz, and Regina King for One Night in Miami. That would be epic. If those 2 things I just discussed, if those came to pass,
right.
Wow.
I think they will. And not only that, it will be even more epic if they win. If one of those 3 women wins, which I think one of them will.
Absolutely.
And I think that, and if I don't think Judas and Black Messiah is going to win Best Picture, but it would be great, obviously, if it did. But I think now, if you're talking about the Best Director race, you're going to have those 3 women, each of the 3 that you've just mentioned. And I absolutely think Regina King really was superbly rendered that wonderful film, One Night in Miami. And again, people, if you haven't seen that, please, Amazon Prime, I believe, is streaming it, and you may be able to get it elsewhere. But Chloe Zhao, I'm sorry, that to me, I'm not giving anything away. That's the best directed film of the year for me.
Now, you talking about Chloe. The film prior to this, The Rider, I remember seeing that at Sundance and just sitting there going, man, she's really good. So now this is Barry Jenkins's significant other. No. Actually, it's Lulu Wang is his significant other. Oh. My apologies at home. Barry, don't get mad at me. I know you're watching.
We make mistakes. I know you didn't mean any kind of malice or anything like that. And knowing you well as I do. But yeah, Lulu Wang, as people may remember, directed a film called, not The Namesake. That's not it. There's another film. That was Nair. There was a film last year, the year before, and I can't believe I'm blanking on the title, Tim. You can help me with this. The film where the grandmother is,
The Farewell.
Thank you, The Farewell. I knew the first word was the. So it's not The Namesake, it's The Farewell. Lulu Wang directed that last year before. Chloe Zhao has directed films, as you mentioned, The Rider, and now this film, Nomadland. Any other things as we kind of close up here in terms of the conversation, Tim, to look out for, do you think, on Monday? Is there anything, because those 2 things you pointed out, and I'm really glad you did, are really important and significant things about the 2 things that could happen. Is there anything else you think could happen, a surprise? Are you expecting something out of left field for Monday?
Well, the only thing that might be the most left field thing that could happen, right? We're talking about this competitive race for back to the actress race again. Yeah. And the name that keeps coming up, which I think could be the fly in the ointment that could ruin somebody's opportunity, is, and no disrespect to Amy Adams, but I keep hearing buzz about Amy Adams possibly breaking through in the actress race. And I'm like, for Hillbilly Elegy? I mean, I was surprised she got a Golden Globe nomination. I was like, and so again, that to me is probably the most left field thing that I think that could actually happen this year. That would really kind of throw that race into disarray, because if Amy Adams is included, that means one of these other terrific actresses is not going to be in the mix. And that could possibly hurt somebody. Well, I don't know if it could hurt an Andra Day. I think Andra Day is going to get nominated. Yeah. But the fifth spot comes down to who's in the fifth spot, Omar. I mean, who do you see? Do we think it's Davis, Mulligan, McDormand, and Day? Who do we see as the last person? Is that a Zendaya spot? Is that possible?
It's Zendaya or Vanessa Kirby. I mean, Pieces of a Woman, or Pieces of a Woman. I believe that's the name of the film.
It is Pieces of a Woman, but it seems like that movie to me feels like it's losing momentum at this point. So I don't know.
Well, I tell you, I guess when I'm speaking about that, I mean, I guess that would be my pick. But in terms of predicting it independently as who we could expect, I think Zendaya is a good bet. It's either Zendaya or Vanessa Kirby. I think it could be Zendaya. It will be a history-making day on Monday, and I'm excited about it. We will definitely talk again in the future about a lot of this. And look, we've got the NAACP Image Awards that's coming not too far away. We've had the BAFTA nominations this week from the UK. That's happened, a much more diverse group of nominees there. So I think that bodes well for the Academy on Monday. We, of course, have had the Golden Globes. The less said about the Golden Globes, the better in terms of the whole background for the Hollywood Foreign Press. We don't have to go there. We know about that. I've talked about it on this podcast. And, of course, the Screen Actors Guild nominations have come out the last few weeks. A lot more to come. And the Black Reel Film Award nominations are out, and it's been a real honor to speak to Mr. Tim Gordon, the absolutely esteemed president of the Washington, D.C. Area Film Critics Association. Tim, can you please tell the audience listening and watching the social media to get in touch with you, sir?
They can reach me at Film Gordon, either at Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. The page, our homepage is thefilmgordon.com. And our YouTube channel, of course, again, is at Film Gordon. So everything, we try to simplify it, man. I try to follow the example of Popcorn Reel, Omar Moore, and just simplify your social media approach, man. But I want to thank you because, like I said, I wasn't joking that we follow each other on social media, and I'm always seeing what you're doing day to day on Politicrat. I'm like, man, I got to get on that show. That's hot.
Tim, thank you so much for your kind words, sir. It's always an honor to have you on. Ladies, gentlemen, everybody, please, a warm welcome again and a warm thank you to you, Tim. Tim Gordon, the president of the Washington, D.C. Film Critics Association, and, of course, his show, Keeping It Real with Film Gordon, can be heard and, I believe, seen as well on the YouTube channel every Saturday. Good show to listen to and watch. Tim, thanks very much for being here on this episode of the Politicrat Daily Podcast.
Thank you, my brother. We'll be in touch, man. Much love to you, Omar.
You too. Take care, Tim. Thank you.
All right, man.
I hope you enjoyed the conversation that I had with Tim Gordon, as we are now just a day away. I mean, tomorrow is the Academy Award nominations. Be up bright and early if you are one of those so inclined. If you are on the East Coast of the United States, you'll have to be up around 8:15 or thereabouts, perhaps, I believe. I think it's going to be around then, maybe a little bit later than that. But be up. Just get up at 8 a.m. Eastern time. How about that? And if you're on the West Coast, it's 5 a.m. I think the actual nominations don't begin until around 5:20 Pacific time, since they are going to be announced out here in California. 5:20 or 5:30 or whatever it is. But to be safe, just set your alarm for 5 for 5 in the morning if you are here on the West Coast. And of course, if you're anywhere else in the world, you are in probably very favorable shape, unless you're in Hawaii in which case you're going to have to be up all night pretty much to watch the nominations live. If you're anywhere else, you're probably during the middle of your day, so you probably are going to be in a position where you can watch these nominated performances be announced live on YouTube, because that's where they will be. I will put a link in this particular episode to the places on YouTube where you can watch the Academy's own Oscar channel, which is on YouTube. The YouTube Oscars channel will be available, and that's where the nomination announcement will be viewed, and it may well be televised. But if you're online, the best bet is the Academy's own Oscars channel for the nominees to be announced tomorrow. You're only a day away. It's going to be very interesting. I'm going to be talking about those nominations, of course, and my reaction to what has been nominated and what hasn't been, because there's likely to be some snubs. There is every year. You cannot nominate every performer or every director. But I can say with confidence, as Tim and I just spoke about here, that there will be female nominees in the directing category, which will be only the, I believe, second time ever that's ever happened, or third time, second time ever, third. Oh gosh, there's only ever been one female director, female Best Director winner. There's only been one in the 93 or so years of Oscar history, which is appalling. And we could triple that, at least with 3 nominees. We could triple it, not with winners, but 3 nominees. Coming up on tomorrow. It's going to be really exciting stuff. I'm an Oscar watcher, even though I've criticized the Academy many a time, but it's always exciting to find out who the Academy picks for the nominations, and then of course on the big night itself, which will be Sunday, April 25th this time around. And again, all very special thanks to Mr. Tim Gordon, the president of the Washington, D.C. Area Film Critics Association. Really wonderful to have that gentleman on, a really kind soul and a good person. And again, you can catch his weekly podcast on Spotify. It's called Keeping It Real with Film Gordon. Well, it's incredible to believe. Incredible to believe. And it's just staggering to believe this, but it's now exactly 1 year. 1 year ago today that I began this podcast. And I must say a lot has happened in the past year. What a journey it has been. And I am really thankful and grateful to you, dear listener, for being an extremely important part of that journey over this 1 year. Innocently enough, if you will, I started this podcast in the hope of trying to strike a somewhat different tone, trying to just find my way and to talk about things I felt needed to be talked about. It's not that other podcasts that you may listen to do not cover the kinds of things that I do. Maybe some of them do, maybe some of them don't. It depends on what you listen to. It's just that I believed and still believe that the kinds of things I talk about are important enough and valuable enough, and indeed in many cases very serious enough, to merit some conversation, some thought, some discussion, and some, most importantly, action. And over the year that this podcast has been available, in fact, every single day of the past 366 plus days, I have done at least one episode of this podcast. I have not taken a day off from it. Now, of course, a wretched pandemic will do that to you. But at the same time, I believe in doing this work and working really hard at it and continuing to try to improve, and not try, but actually improve. I will leave it to you, dear listener, as to whether you think that I have improved over this past year. I happen to have my opinion about that. And I bet you do as well. And from the emails and comments I get on Twitter and some of the things that I have even had said to me directly and in person, on those few moments, a few rare occasions that I've had those kinds of conversations face to face, with masks on, of course, I have been given a lot of positive feedback. I want to also, over the last year, thank every guest that I have had on. That includes the guest that you just heard, Mr. Tim Gordon, the president of the Washington, D.C. Area Film Critics Association. And that includes the very first guest I ever had on this podcast. Her name is Dr. Cindy Duke. She was my first guest back in, I believe it was April of 2020. So I thank her very much. And I thank every guest in between. And I don't want to start naming people, because what will happen is I will fail to name somebody. And that is not a good thing. I did an episode at the end, or very close to the end, of December of last year, where I picked out some of the highlights of some of the guests that I had interviewed, some of the highlights of the interviews that I had done with them. And I look at every interaction with someone on my podcast as a conversation rather than an interview. But nonetheless, I must say that it's been really great to have people on this podcast who speak to you and speak to me and share some really important and very valuable information. I have enjoyed immensely this first year of the Politicrat Daily Podcast. And I look forward to the next 365 days. There may be a day off or two during this second year of the podcast. But I can say that it is, to be frank, a real honor to be able to have done the entire year of podcasts and never missing a day. That takes a lot of dedication, and it takes a lot of hard work, scripted or unscripted. In my case, the latter. And I must say that I am most grateful, once again, most of all to you, for listening, for bearing with me, for agreeing or disagreeing with what you've heard me say, but for your loyal ear, your listening ear. Thank you very much for taking me on your travels, wherever you might be in the world, or wherever you may go in the world. If you've listened to me on your travels, or in the morning, or at night, or during the day, whenever you've listened, I do want to again extend my profound thanks and gratitude to you. Thank you for making this podcast what it is. And thank you for continuing to listen to help me make it what I know can be. An even better place and an even better podcast. I will continue to work hard on that, and with your help and your listening ear, take this podcast to an even better level of quality. I also want to say something about the Politicrat Daily Podcast online store, which I opened actually late last year in 2020, the last quarter of the year. The store has absolutely exploded into life since then. And I want to thank you so much for purchasing a product or two from the store. All of the products are designed by yours truly. And quite frankly, I couldn't be prouder of the store itself and the quality of the products therein. A lot more products will be added during the course of this calendar year. And at the moment, there are close to 200, if not more, products available. All you have to do is go to the-politicrat.myshopify.com. You can also go to the Politicrat podcast webpage at thepoliticrat.com. As you scroll down, one of the first things you will see is a photograph of one of the bits of merchandise that is available for your purchase. You can click on that photograph. It will take you directly to the homepage of the store. Lots to look at, to see, to buy. So please indulge and please support the Politicrat Daily Podcast online store. Again, all of the products are designed by yours truly. Jackets, t-shirts, sweatshirts, soon to be added long sleeve t-shirts, soon to be added a number of other things. In addition, there are also mugs, hats, pens, tote bags. I really do appreciate your support, so thank you very much indeed. And when I come back, I will play you the opening of this very podcast exactly 1 year ago today. And a very good morning to you all. Welcome to a weekend edition of the Audiocast. My name is Omar Moore. It is indeed Saturday, March the 14th, 2020. Hoping your weekend is getting off to a good start as we have come into a wild political season amidst a lot of upheaval. For those of you who are indoors, which I hope you are, please continue to stay safe, self-isolate, and wash your hands. Lord knows we need this time to do those things. For some of us, we have to be out and about. We may have to work on the weekend. We may have to be out and about to help loved ones who need assistance. But I urge you, wherever you are, to be careful. Just wanted to recap what has gone on literally in the last, 10 hours or so, if not that. The House of Representatives late last night on the West Coast, but if you're on the East Coast, that would be early this morning, passed an emergency bill, a coronavirus aid relief bill that will give people who are not working, who have been laid off, for example, extended unemployment benefits, emergency unemployment benefits. I think that is a very good idea. It was a largely bipartisan vote. There were 40 Republicans who didn't vote for this bill. How dare you? But in general, it was a bill in the House that passed. There was literally about 15 minutes of debate, if that, and then the vote swiftly went through. The final vote was 360 feet. Let me say that again. The final vote was 363 yay,
and 40 nay, with one person voting present. That was an independent. I suspect it was Justin Amash, but I do not have the roll call vote in front of me. And then I think there were about 20 or so who did not vote at all. But nonetheless, it passed very handily in the House, 363 to 40. Now, as far as this goes, now with this House bill passed, it will go to the Senate on Monday, and I expect that the U.S. Senate will do something that they haven't done in a long time, which is actually vote on a bill and at least vote on some bipartisan legislation. And they vote on some things, but not on the things that really, really matter, that will affect the country. And now that we are in a national emergency, as declared by the you-know-who in the White House, we now will need to have an extraordinary response to this virus, which is really wreaking havoc here in the United States and will continue to do so over the next few weeks. And the House has done its job. Now it's up to the U.S. Senate. Mitch McConnell, the Senate Majority Leader, is missing in action. I don't know where he is, whether he's self-quarantining or whatever he's doing, but not heard from him in the last day or two. And the calls on Twitter, #Where's Mitch, is a good question. It is a good question because we need to know where Mitch McConnell is. This is emergency legislation. You know, this guy would be up until God knows what 100 hours when it came to shutting down government, when it came down to, when it came to these tax cuts, when it came down to trying to repeal Obamacare, when it came down to trying to put through nominees to the Supreme Court, toxic nominees like Brett Kavanaugh, when it came down to these impeachment situations where he would do these late sessions. Where is he now when it comes to helping the American public? I don't think that this is excusable anymore. Mitch McConnell missing in action, ladies and gentlemen, everybody. So that is where we are at the moment with coronavirus. Look, I already talked yesterday about what was going on with you-know-who, and I don't want to go over that again for this weekend. I do want to move on to the other things going on in politics, and of course that is now the thing that's not going to get much coverage amidst the wall-to-wall coronavirus updates, which I think, as far as the corporate news media is concerned, they will not really be giving you information other than who is not doing what they're supposed to do. And I think I suggest to you, if you want to get some real information about coronavirus and about how it's affecting people in your area or anywhere else, it'd be to consult the World Health Organization. Thank you very much for listening to this special edition of the Politicrat. The 1-year anniversary of the start of this podcast. Very special thanks to my guest, Tim Gordon, the president of the Washington, D.C. area Film Critics Association and the architect of the Black Reel Awards, as well as the host and creator of the podcast, Keeping It Real with Film Gordon. Very special thanks to him. It's really been great to play a portion of how it all began here with this podcast, the Politicrat Daily Podcast. Thank you for your loyalty. Continue to listen, to subscribe, to spread the word, to check out the podcast website at thepoliticrat.com, to patronize and support the store of the Politicrat Daily Podcast at the-politicrat.spotify.com. And to follow yours truly, Omar Moore, here on Twitter at the Popcorn REEL. A lesser used Twitter handle for the show itself is _Politicrat. There's also a Facebook page for the podcast as well, and I hope that you take a look at that too. You can contact the show at the following email address: politicratpod@gmail.com. Once again, the email address, politicratpod. That's politicratpod@gmail.com. Thank you very much for listening to this special edition of the Politicrat. I'm Omar Moore.